BYU's 6'11 forward Noah Waterman just entered the transfer portal this week. Carolina needs front court guys. You
are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shea, joined today by our guy, Coach Pat Kilby, coming to us from his classroom in Oklahoma. You're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. I want to thank you for making us your first listener watch. A big special shout out to all you everydayers out there and all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community. Coming up on the show today, we want to have a conversation about this guy, Coleman Hawkins, and some interesting responses he had to great Osobor's $2 million deal and how he might fit in with Carolina. Also, Harrison Ingram has officially and publicly shut the door on a return to Carolina. But Pack, where we got to start today is, the transfer portal always just gives us some surprises, some unexpected surprises. And there's a new one that jumped in earlier this week. And you and I are wondering if this is a guy that Carolina should take a look at. By his name is Noah Waterman. He is a BYU player with 1 year of eligibility left. Why was he able to enter the portal? I'll answer that, Pack, and then I'll turn it over to you for your thoughts on Waterman and his stats and other things like that. So obviously the transfer portal is closed, but if a coach leaves for another job, those players have 30 days to enter the transfer portal. And so the 30 days for BYU just ended earlier this week. Noah Waterman entered the transfer portal, or at least the news broke about it, on the last day for BYU's 30-day window. So that's why he was able to jump in. Pat Kilby, I know you've been watching some video. I know we've looked at the stats you and I have together. Tell me your initial thoughts. Should Carolina take a look at Noah Waterman?
Yeah, I think we absolutely should. His shot is water, man.
Oh, my gosh. You're done. Kilby, you're done. No, I'm just kidding.
That joke. No, really, I like what he can do. He's got range as far as his length and his mobility. He shoots the ball really well. He runs the floor well in transition. He does a lot of things really well that I think would transition into the way we play. He's not going to get in there. And if we're looking for an Armando Bacot fill-in, that's not going to be him. But what he can do is make us a little bit different. And he plays more naturally with the style that we have of the get up and down and transition and play fast and shoot threes and stretch the floor. He can do that for us. And so I think it's worth taking a look at him.
Now, Pat, I know we're right in the middle of the Ven-Allen Lubin visit to Chapel Hill that started on Tuesday. How would you go about navigating that with Lubin? Obviously, the conversations are far along. We have no idea at this point if the Carolina staff will reach out to Waterman, if they want to, any of that yet. But let's say that you are part of the coaching staff and you decide that you do want to take a look at Waterman. What kind of conversations does that cause you to have with Ven-Allen Lubin?
Well, I think you got to have open, honest conversations about it, and they're two totally different players. So
they really are.
When you really break it down, the staff's got to decide, first of all, have they given Lubin a committable offer? Is that on the table? Have we reached that point? If it is, do we want to maybe talk about that because of what we like with Waterman? Or is it worth potentially losing Lubin to go after Waterman and potentially not get him? So there's so many variables there. But I think you do have to have open and honest conversation. And as it stands at this point, I know Coleman Hawkins is in the mix, so we think. But we've got room for Lubin and for Waterman right now.
That's true. That's true.
We can take both of them at this point if we need to. But like I said, we don't know what's going on with everybody else because the staff keeps everything so hush-hush. But at this point, we could take both of them. And honestly, that's not a bad mix because what Lubin
and Waterman, you're saying?
Correct. Yeah. What he lacks in shooting, Waterman kind of makes up for. And so that could be a decent pair, although I tend to think Hawkins and Waterman would be super ideal because of the way they stretch the floor, both of them, and the tandem that could be. But right now, I think it's just got to be about having open and honest conversations about the direction that you want to go with your team, so that all of these guys know what they're getting into.
Yeah, I mean, and I know it's frustrating for us who are trying to analyze all this, how close they play it, how close they hold things to the chest, to the vest, whatever that phrase is. But like in all actuality, I appreciate it, right? Like I think the players probably do too, that they're keeping it in and tight so that everything's on the table with them, but that it's not all out there in the media and you and I aren't talking about it all the time. I think as a player and as the coaching staff, I probably appreciate that. And so Pac, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I talked about on the show yesterday. Obviously, we know Carolina has 3 scholarships still available right now. Our thought is that they will probably spend 1 or 2 of them. I would prefer 2. We don't think they'll use 3. And so if you start thinking about it, as you said, there's these possible combinations of these 3 guys, Lubin, Hawkins, Waterman, if they do enter into any kind of conversation with him. And, you talked about the combinations there, like a Lubin Waterman, a Lubin Hawkins, a Hawkins Waterman. Those are a couple combinations. One of the things I said yesterday, because I was answering a listener question about, do you go ahead and make moves on guys now that are in the portal so that you're not risking somebody coming out of the draft or not? Or do you kind of hedge your bets and wait a little bit? And my thought yesterday was, I would, if you're going to use 2 scholarships, go ahead and try to get somebody now, one of these guys. And then if you're really all in on Hawkins or somebody else in the draft, maybe you do chance waiting on that, which at this point on Wednesday, May 15th is now 14 days away from the withdrawal deadline ending. So, Pac, is that what you think the best combination of these 3 would be, is Waterman and Hawkins, if you had 2 of the 3? And I'm speaking from a fit standpoint.
Yeah, I do. I think that's the best. And when you say fit, I think that Lubin does fit a lot of Carolina principles. He seems to be like a solid, grounded young man, and he's, he seems respectable by all accounts. But where I see a good fit for Waterman and Hawkins is in the style that they would allow us to be able to play. Those 2 could be essentially interchangeable at the 4 and the 5. The way they stretch the floor, the way they can run in transition, the way they can do things with the ball in their hands. They both have pretty good vision. So I just like that. I think that makes us really, really hard to guard when you look at the potential of both of them being in the front court at the same time.
Which you could do with them.
Yes, absolutely. You can guard multiple positions. Ball screens are way less of an issue with the way that those 2 move. Waterman doesn't necessarily have just the blocks per game that you would want to see from someone that's 6'11", 7 foot, but he has the length. There's no way that he's not altering shots. We know that Hawkins is altering shots. So they bring the ideal combination offensively. They add the length and the rebounding defensively, the ability to guard multiple positions. So that combo really, really intrigues me.
Pac, you talked about the blocks. Let me give some of Waterman's stats. We haven't really talked about that. Last year at BYU, 9.5 points, 5.4 rebounds, 0.7 assists a game, 0.6 blocks a game, 0.4 steals a game. So under 1 on assists, blocks, and steals. But he was 37% from 3 on 4.7 per game, 80.7% on free throws at 1.7 per game, and 63.2% on two-point field goals on 2.3 per game. And that's the interesting thing, Pac. A lot of those shooting numbers are really good, but he's got more, like 76 2-pointers attempted last year, 154 3-pointers attempted. So more than double the number of 3-pointers attempted was more than double the number of 2-pointers he attempted. Contrasted with Cade Tyson, for example, Cade shot 172 threes and 185 twos. So that even has some complementary game to one another. Pac, you just said, obviously he's not going to provide a ton of rim protection in terms of actual blocks. does that lack of blocks or the lack of rebounds, 5.4 per game, does that give you any pause?
No, not a ton, because Carolina has always what I call gang rebound. It's not just one person that dominates the glass. We don't rely heavily on our 5 or heavily on our 4. It's a team effort. And with his size and his length and being in our system and the way we preach and teach how to rebound and the things that we do, I think those things can be fixed, or he could improve in that area. So that doesn't concern me a ton. In fact, I love his length. Watching his film, I think he has really good offensive rebounding potential, especially in the style we'll play and the way that teams will have to guard us. And so I actually think he has a lot of upside on the glass.
Man, it'd be very interesting. That'd be an interesting front court combination. Would be really curious to see what it would bring. So, Pack, we've been talking about a potential here of Noah Waterman and then some of Coleman Hawkins as well. Coleman Hawkins had a very interesting reaction to Great Osobor's $2 million NIL deal that he got to go to Washington. But then his reaction has been deleted. We're going to talk more about that, try to wrap our brains more around money and what we think Carolina should do in terms of trying to land Coleman Hawkins. We'll get to that conversation in just a second. Right after I tell you about eBay Motors, passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits to LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every single time or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Pack, we want to have a conversation about Coleman Hawkins, who is currently at the NBA Draft Combine. There's been concern about supply and demand and other things of Carolina has not landed any of these bigs yet. And so you just keep seeing these price tags keep creeping up all the way to Great Osobor's $2 million reported NIL deals to go to Washington to follow Danny Sprinkle. Interestingly, I don't necessarily think we need to talk a ton about Great Osobor himself, but we bring that up to talk about that number as well as Coleman Hawkins' response to it. On Monday, when that news came out, Coleman Hawkins quote tweeted it and said, "Highest paid, huh? LOL." As in, Pack, I have a thought on what I read that to mean. What did you read that to mean from Coleman Hawkins?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of people took it like, oh, you think that's the highest paid? Wait until you see what I get.
Good.
But I personally don't think he meant it that way. We've talked before about how he likes to play games on Twitter, and he likes to troll a little bit and just have fun with it in general. And that's how I took it. I took it jokingly. I don't think he was saying, well, look at that deal. I'm about to blow that out of the water, or I'm about to beat that. I think he was just making a joke of it and trying to stir up some stuff on Twitter just to see how people would react. That's the way I took it anyways. What about you?
That exactly the same. When I first read it, I was like, oh no, he's going to cost a lot of money if Carolina wants to land him. But then I remembered the conversation that I had with Cameron Salerno from CBS Sports last week, who said exactly what you said, Pack, that that's been who he's been since high school. Coleman Hawkins just likes to have fun and troll and do silly things on social media. So you take it. But here's what's even more interesting, Pack. He has since deleted that tweet. You and I went back to try and find it in preparation for our show here, and we couldn't find it. It was deleted. I went to the link for it because it was in a group that we're part of, and it just wasn't there. And so that made it all the more interesting, Pack, that it's gone. Now, we got more clarity on this because on Tuesday night, Kevin Sweeney, who does a great job writing for Sports Illustrated, tweeted, quote, "If he does return to college, Coleman Hawkins says he doesn't want the label of being the highest paid player in college basketball because of the pressure it would invite. Quote, even if I did come back to school, I'd let you guys guess whatever amount I got, end quote. And so, Pack, I think that even further confirms what you were just saying there. Coleman Hawkins just out here having a good time, right?
Yeah, he definitely is. And, the fact, before you even read what Kevin Sweeney said, the fact that he deleted it was proof in itself that, people misconstrued what I said. Let me just take this down because it's getting in the way of what I really want to be known for, which is being a basketball player.
Yeah, I think that's a great interpretation. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I cut you off.
And then Kevin all but confirmed that thought. So that pretty much solidifies it. He was joking around and then removed it because he didn't want that necessarily to be associated with who he was as a ball player.
That's right. And Coleman Hawkins did have some other conversation on Tuesday night about, from Brett Behrens on Twitter, had been in a conversation with Hawkins at the draft combine. He said, quote, I'd really love to hear from a team that I can at least get a minimum contract, something guaranteed. Coleman Hawkins on what he's looking for going into an NBA draft decision, still has a year of eligibility left in college. Quote, honestly, I really don't want to go back to school, end quote. Pack, that one leaves me a little like it's felt more like he's leaning to college. That I don't know what to make of that one, honestly.
Yeah, I'm with you. At the end of the day, it really goes back to not what he said at the end of I don't want to go back to school. It's more of what it goes back to me is I want something guaranteed.
Yeah.
And that's the key part to me. Does he get something guaranteed from the draft? If he does, well, it's a no-brainer. That means he's a first-round pick.
Yep.
Because that's the only thing that's guaranteed in the draft is first round. So if he doesn't get that, then it makes it a clear decision for him. I would think that he has something for sure guaranteed in NIL money at whatever college he chooses.
That's right.
So in a sense, the decision, unless he just truly doesn't want to come back to school at all, then the decision will make itself more clear based on whether or not he gets a promise from a team.
And he continues to say things that lead us to believe that he will not return to Illinois or any other Big Ten school. I know that Louisville is another school in the mix for Coleman Hawkins if he comes back. Well, Louisville just got a commitment. Pack, I don't know if you saw this on Tuesday from Cason Pryor, who we've talked about multiple times that we would have loved Carolina to target. But that is good news in terms of Louisville probably not being in the mix for Pryor. So it means like this could maybe come down, if he returns to school, again, down to Carolina versus Arkansas. So we'll have to wait and see there. Now, interestingly, I want to go back to Great Osobor's number, not Great Osobor himself, but this number, because per Jeff Goodman, he said, could wind up being in 2.2 million range, depending on the other deals, Adidas trading cards, etc. Pack, here's why I bring that up. I went and looked at the NBA rookie scale for 23-24. The 30th pick of the draft, the last pick of the first round, the guaranteed first-year rookie scale is $2,011,100. To get to that 2.2 range, that's in between picks 24 and 25. Pick 24, the first year for the rookie scale is $2,278,000. The 25th pick, first year, is $2,186,000. So 2.2 would fall right in between the 24th and 25th pick. Now, I know that's just, last year's numbers and whatever, and not every – look, that 2.2 million is not – don't think of it like Major League Baseball free agency or NBA free agency. Like it's not a market setting or resetting kind of thing. That's just not what it's going to be yet. But I mean, that is telling of like, we typically think like, hey, if you're going to be a second round guy, definitely NIL can get you more money, but we're talking Great Osobor's NIL deal is back end of the first round type of money, Pack. That's wild to me.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's really it's reached that point, where you've got to pay the big bucks to get the big time players. It's just the way it is. It's the wild, wild west. It's free agency. It's whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. And it's what you got to do to get the players. And, right. And so for us, it's obviously going to be about finding the balance of finding the guys that fit who we are at Carolina and that want to be there, But also, once we find that, we got to be willing to pay them to get them, which is, I know, something we've been wanting to talk about is how do you find that right balance and what exactly is Coach Davis looking for? And it feels like maybe with some of the guys we've reached out to this cycle of the transfer portal, it's been maybe that money has been the priority, and that's why it hasn't worked out. And so it's really tough to find that balance.
Yeah. And I think where you and I are both at, Pack, is if you find the guy and the fit is there, pay him. Like, yes, RJ Davis wants to be at Carolina, but homie's getting a bag, dude. Right? Like that's where we're at. And so like we can't allow money to cause North Carolina to miss out on elite level basketball players. If this is the shape of things, and until there's a salary cap or a collective bargaining agreement, this is going to be the thing. You just got to go player by player to gauge what the market is going to tell you you have to pay for that guy. And at this point, as the supply dwindles, demand is going to be higher, and you're just going to have to pay up. And one of the things I just want to re-quote myself, something I said yesterday. It's great to have a bag. Like I firmly believe it seems like Carolina has the money, and it's great to have a bag. But if you're left holding a bag, then it's no good to you. Money is just paper if you don't spend it. And that's what Carolina's got to do, is be willing to go spend. Anything else on that balance, Pack, or anything else? Like, are you of the mind now where it's like, if Coleman Hawkins comes back, you pay him what he wants to be paid and you get him on your roster? Yes or no?
That's really tough. I tend to lean towards yes. I don't believe in paying someone more than what RJ Davis is making, though. So, because to me, RJ's earned that, and he's a Carolina guy, and he's our dude. He is the dude in college basketball. I just can't find myself agreeing with paying someone more than what RJ is making. Yeah. But by all means, pay up, because it means that we're getting a high-level player to come to Carolina that wants to be there, that can help us win a national championship. So I do agree we've got to pay up. I just want us to do it in a way that doesn't cause friction amongst team chemistry or jealousy or wait, why is he getting that? I've been here for 4 years and I'm not getting that yet. So there's just got to be a balance, but I do agree, players of that level, we got to pay the money.
Yeah, man. And this is ultimately why I want to see college basketball. We need a college basketball czar, first off, somebody to just spearhead the whole thing, make it happen, bring it together. But we've got to establish systems and formats, things like a salary cap and collective bargaining, to where you can have contracts and guys are held to those for multiple years or whatever it looks like. That's the only way, in my opinion, to ultimately rein this thing in. But for what it is right now, you got to do what you got to do to get the guys you need and the guys that fit. And because that balance that you talked about, Pack, I think is key. That's very well said. Now, unfortunately, Harrison Ingram has firmly and publicly slammed the door on returning to North Carolina, but he has handled it the way that I would want every college basketball player to handle it, as you would expect Harrison Ingram to do. I'm thankful for him, and I'm going to miss the heck out of him. Pack, let's have a conversation about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about Game Time, I am stoked for the NBA playoffs going on right now. And Pack, wouldn't it be cool to go to a game, even just like on a last-minute whim? Well, good news. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app, they actually go down the closer you get to tip-off. They've got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and a lowest price guarantee. With that, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. And I often worry about my third-party tickets being bogus. We ain't got to do that with Game Time because of Game Time ticket coverage. With that, your purchase is covered by the most flexible customer service policy in the entire ticketing industry. I don't know about you all, but I love that peace of mind. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Lots of great conversation today on the show, Pack. We've looked at Noah Waterman from BYU, if we think he's worth Carolina pursuing. We've talked about Coleman Hawkins and money and how that all goes together. That's an ongoing conversation just in all of college basketball that we're just going to have to keep continuing to have. But then also, Harrison Ingram had a pretty nice showing, actually, Tuesday in a scrimmage there at the Combine in, I believe it was 19 minutes played, and I put up some good numbers, shot well from three. And then in an interview later that came out on Tuesday, he said, quote, "I'm all in," and then referring to the question, "I'm all in on the draft." He said, "Obviously it's open, but that's more just so that if I get injured, knock on wood, I want to keep my options open. I'm trying to be smart and keep it open, but I'm staying in." The interviewer goes on to ask, "Is that one of those things where you gave North Carolina that info early so they can do work in the portal? Is that part of the game plan there?" Harrison says, quote, "100%. I mean, I told them before anybody knew. I was very straight up with this relationship we had. I told them from the start, my plan is to stay in the draft. They knew before everybody. I didn't really want them to be held back by my decision and not be able to recruit everybody. Obviously, they didn't need my permission, but I was like, you can recruit whoever you want. Go do whatever you want. If I do end up for some reason coming back, I'm fine fighting for my position. I know they have a job to do and a family to feed," end quote. Pat Kilby, I love this man more than ever. Give me your response to all that behind the scenes on Harrison Ingram's progression toward the draft.
My first thought is, you made the comment earlier about why we should only use 2 scholarships instead of 3. We need that third one open just in case. But I agree. I think he's handling it super maturely. I love what he said. He had these conversations behind closed doors before any of us knew exactly what he was going to do. And that tells us right there that his relationship with the staff is strong. There's a respect there. And he understands what Carolina has to do. And Carolina understands what he's trying to do. That's right. We knew what we were getting when we got Harrison. We were getting an NBA caliber player that had been playing on a bad team. And now he came and he showed what he can do. And now he's going to go try to live out his dream, which is great. That's what we want to do. We want to put people at the next level. And so I just have a lot of respect. He's showing a lot of maturity in the way he's handling it. He's got obviously open and direct communication with the staff. And he's been just, the consummate teammate and Carolina guy from the day he stepped on campus to now. And so I have nothing but respect for him and find him super easy to root for.
Man, right with you there, Pack. And I love what you said about this to me is a great thing for North Carolina. Hey, you come in here, you've got multiple years of eligibility. We would love you to utilize those. But in some ways, it's better for Carolina as a basketball program if you come here, ball out, and then go. Raise that stock back to where it was coming out of high school, where he was top 19, 20, 21 in that draft class, or in that incoming freshman class, excuse me. And so love that he was able to get back there through what he did at Carolina this year. I want to further build on what you said about the way he handled this. A lot of coaching staffs are taken by surprise when they hear this news or other things happen. And so his willingness and capability to be forthright and forthcoming about his plans and intentions, so that, as you said, both he and the school could put themselves in the best position to succeed going forward. That's exactly what I want from a young man, from a student athlete that is part of this university, the University of North Carolina. And I am not shocked by it. And man, I love Harrison Ingram, and I'm so glad that he is a Tar Heel Pack. And I cannot wait to see where he goes and his fit and all of that. Obviously, we're going to miss him like crazy. But what I also love is that because he said that from the beginning, the coaching staff has been able to not only be on the lookout for Armando Bacot replacement, and obviously when we say Armando Bacot replacement, we don't mean it has to be a direct replacement, but just a 5. And then also knowing, hey, we got to get somebody at the 4 as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, I will say, I want to add this. Harrison is a perfect example of why Coach Davis is very picky and is looking for the right fit, because this is the type of young men that we want to put in our program. And like now it's on display because of the way he handled it. We're able to see the class and the direct communication that you just alluded to, the fact that not every program has that luxury. And we do. And it's because Coach Davis gets, young men like Harrison Ingram in our program. And so whenever you guys are frustrated we haven't landed anybody yet, just like I do too, I get that way too. It's a lot, it makes it a lot easier for me when I think back and remember he's trying to get the right guys here, just guys just like Harrison. So, kudos to Coach Davis and the staff for getting solid young men like this to represent the University of North Carolina.
And think about what this says to you. Like if you're the parent or the guardian or the handler of a young man, and you see this level of communication between Harrison Ingram and the coaching staff, that is something you read between the lines and say, they handle their business like professionals. They handle their business like men. There's not passive aggressive comments. That we're going direct to the source and we're having direct conversation. That to me, as a parent, gives me such a level of comfort about the conversations I can have with the staff and the conversations my son can have with the staff as well, Pac. And so even forecasting ahead, you love it. And it's exactly what North Carolina needs to be. So Harrison Ingram, best of luck, brother, going forward. And we can't wait to keep tabs on how the draft continues to evolve and move forward. So Pac, obviously a lot more to come in the days and weeks ahead as we keep tabs on Ven-Allen Lubin's visit and how that moves forward. Will Carolina contact Noah Waterman? What happens with Coleman Hawkins? Does he stay in the draft? Does he leave? And then the sweepstakes is on if he comes back. So we'll keep our eyes on all that. You and I'll be back together next week. Tomorrow, Coach Rob and I will be joining together, and we'll see some great conversations there, of course, as always. Folks, we want to thank you for joining us today. If you haven't subscribed to the show on audio and video, please do that. So easy to do. If you aren't part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community, we'd love to have you. Come for the Tar Heels, stay for the community. The link's in the show notes. It's free and easy to join. Very seriously, come be part of it. There are conversations flying across my computer screen literally right now from that Discord as we're talking. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, peace.